week have been so interesting. They will indeed shape the weekend politics. We're used to a lot of political leaders going to, I'd say, harambes, church services, doing tours over the weekend and commenting on a lot of stuff. And what has been the loudest in politics this particular week has been developments towards the Kibra by-elections. That's right. Joining me, I have Tarwish Olaltale with me. I also have Kennedy Owalo, who is an ANC Youth leader. Thank you so much for making time for KUTV News at 9. Tarwish, I'd really love to have your commentary on this because I love sitting with you just dissecting politics. I think it's funny. Two developments within this particular week. President Uhuru Kenyatta akivalisha Mariga kofia. That was the other. After Mariga's nullification was also now he was brought back into the race, I'd say. As well, part of what we've seen in this particular week was Minor Commander putting his weight between ODM. I'd love to first of all start with Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, number one, the president. In an action that no one could have predicted, he went ahead and did endorse Mariga for the Kibra elections. And no one actually saw this because earlier on everyone had predicted that president would actually not involve himself with politics. I'll start with you, Tarwish. What was your impression of that? Does this change the dynamics of the play in Kibra right now?
Very well, thank you so much. And I think to begin with, we have to appreciate the fact that President Kenyatta, away from being the president of this republic, is equally the party leader of Jubilee, which is the ruling party as we speak now. Right. And so, I mean, there's no reason as to why Jubilee could not field a candidate. We understand that already they have a candidate whom, of course, is also going through so many other hurdles, legal and political, in as far as his candidature is concerned. But I think more important is that I mean, having had this candidate as a Jubilee candidate, the president, I mean, was in the right. It was his prerogative to go and actually endorse the candidature of Mariga. Because again, what reason will he give not to endorse, or actually to say Mariga, a candidate for Jubilee Party in this by-election, has the blessings of the president and the party leader of a party that Mariga is using to vie for this Kibra seat. As to whether that endorsement has any meaning or is going to translate to the votes on ground is something that we are going to wait and see, and especially how the candidates and the political parties that have already fielded candidates are going to carry out their campaigns in the run-up to this by-election in November. Right.
Kennedy, you are an ANC Youth leader. ANC has a candidate in Kibra, something that we'd also not... I don't know how this plays, but you guys are within NASA. You've been accused of jumping NASA in this particular one because ODM also has a candidate. At the same time, Jubilee had promised NASA that they would not field a candidate in the spirit of the handshake in this particular constituency, Kibra. One, why did ANC choose to do that? And then did you feel jumped by Jubilee when they decided to field Mariga for this?
I think first and foremost, we have a right as a party to field a candidate. And there's an internal competition, democracy that is allowed. Remember in 2017, we were also competing within NASA. Even though we had one candidate who was Raila Amolo Odinga, and whatever happened, happened. But in regards to Jubilee candidate, I think there's been a lot of hypocrisy and betrayal in the whole process. Because I remember during the burial of Ken Okoth, you know, Sakaja and also made a declaration that he's going to talk to the president, that they are not going to field a candidate. Then later, there's been back and forth in this regard, that at the end of the day, you know, the president being the party leader had to just come in because it should be a symbol of unity. But if you read the body language of the president, he's not into this. And that is why, you know, Mariga being a candidate in Kibra is not a serious issue to us because Kibra people need a leader. They don't need a slay king. That is what they say, or a person who is showbiz. You know, that is not...
You are calling him a slay king. Other people have called him a socialite candidate. I really wanted to say that, and I'm saying it now, but please, let me get this to you, Tarwish. Yes. Mariga, by elections in Kenya, money plays a big role, and we are all aware of that. The people supporting Imran, Raila Odinga, ODM, I'd say by far, they're not known to spend such huge amounts when it comes to by-elections or even elections per se that actually see lower turnouts. But in this case now we have Mariga. He's won with his own money. As well, he's backed by the deputy president, whom a lot of people have actually symbolized to be the person actually.
Why don't you
pushing
say
for
he's
his
backed by
candidature.
the Jubilee
That's
Party?
Right. The deputy president, who is
The ruling
known
party.
to, is known to, I'd say, just dish out money for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Isn't this a threat for ODM and ANC, who have other candidates as well?
One, the determining factor in as far as who's going to win the election in Kibra is not going to be pegged on, entirely on who has enough money or more money than the other candidates.
But it will play a factor.
It's going to play a factor. But the point that Mariga has money or the people who support him have money does not mean that is going to be the only factor which is going to inform the decision in Kibra. Or it does not really mean that the other candidates do not have the resources to run the campaign. Remember, the election is not only about money. There are so many other resources that really play out in an election. And I believe Mariga should not only actually bank his hope on the money he has or the people who are supporting him in this context. Because again, there are so many other parameters that are going to play out. This includes how he's going to mobilize people on the ground, how he's sold his name. Remember, as we speak, he still has those hurdles that we are talking about. And also the other candidates. I mean, the likes of ANC's candidate, Owalo, save for example, if we are getting to discuss about him, say for jumping from ODM to ANC at the last minute, but is one of the people I believe, in my own opinion, he has a name in Kibra. I mean, he has already identified with the voters in Kibra, so is Imran Okoth. So who is Mariga, save for maybe being a star in football? I mean, people may not really be able to know him so well, and that is why you see he's finding it even very hard to penetrate Kibra, and that you're going to witness when the campaigns now get to a fever pitch in the coming days. So generally what I'll tell you is that other candidates in this by-election, including ANC's, is a business guy, is a business mogul, he has his own money, and ANC as a party equally has its own money. Right. ODM for that matter, remember ODM and the entire party and other, leaders within the party, they are going to consolidate all these resources to ensure that their candidates are not going to waste any chance when it comes to resources in these campaigns.
And as well, we can identify a lot of examples where I'd say relatives to a deceased sitting member of parliament or leader in that particular case has won the election. It's almost can be predicted as a given. That's right. What did inform ANC putting Owalo in this particular race? Because it's interesting, photos made it online. The media did cover that of Owalo joining Kibra residents in constructing burnt houses. And the caption on it was hypocrisy. Politicians doing particularly anything when they need the votes. Beyond that, nothing. They go to Nairobi, sit in Nairobi, and wait for appointments to be made for people who want to meet them. Let me get back to what do you think will be the determinant in this particular case, and interestingly so, in favor for your candidate, Eliud Owalo?
First and foremost, actually we didn't choose Owalo because of being in ODM before or being a Luo, but we chose Owalo because he's a leader. He's been there before. Remember in 2013, he contested, but whatever happened during the nominations of ODM, actually And I believe that this is not the first time that...
Let me request you to put your microphone.
This is not the first time that he's helping Kibra people. I've seen, and we are told that he has taken so many young people to driving school. And this is not the first time that he's bringing such kind of development. And I have to, appreciate the fact that, when there was a disaster, he took an initiative of constructing these houses. As a leader, that is the first thing that others even ought to have done. But remember, Imra was taking selfie with the commander and other people. And also Mariga was also taking selfie with the president, meaning that Kibra politics, as at now, is not just local politics. This is about 2022. Right. And that is the reality. And that's why, Ruto, fielding a candidate, he wants to assert authority in Kibra. He wants to tell people that I'm also there for 2022. The same to, Uhuru is not contesting in 2022. What Uhuru is interested in is his legacy, the Big Four agenda. That's why he's not interested. But he's doing this because he does not want to divide Jubilee government. Right. But at the same time, about the money issue, it's not going to be a factor because Kibra people, they've been led for 39 years. Right. They have not seen any changes. And it's high time now they need a candidate or a leader who will now bring that change. and involve all of them, all the community that are involved in Kibra.
Well, Odundo, just allow me to respond, even before you ask another question.
Right.
On the point that maybe Kibra people have not seen any development for the last about 39 years, as my friend here has alluded. I don't think that is factual. Why? Because we've seen the late Ken Okoth being touted as the best, one of the best leaders, one of the best member of parliament we've had in the recent times. I mean, he's transformed Kibra in terms of education, in terms of developmental projects that we have been seeing people talk about. And it's not just about talking, there are tangible developmental projects that can be seen that the late Ken Okoth has done in Kibra. So for any candidate who is coming in and saying there's nothing completely that the people of Kibra have ever gotten from the leadership before may not necessarily be correct. Second point, on the question of, for example, going and constructing or helping people in Kibra today.
Right. I'd love to get your reaction on that.
Yeah, because this is not the first time that we've seen people having calamities or problems in Kibra. It has been happening before. It happens almost every other day. In fact, I even saw Mariga going and carrying a young baby. Then I was asking myself, is this the first time that Mariga came to understand that we have young kids in Kibra? Is this the first time that we are having houses being burnt in Kibra? Or is it the first time really that the people of Kibra need the attention that we are seeing with these political leaders? But for politicians, let's give it to them, because those are the ways they use to woo voters. And that's why you're seeing the ANC youth leader coming out and saying, is giving you a comparative analysis of other candidates vis-a-vis the ANC candidate by saying, Mariga was taking selfies with President Kenyatta at State House, and Imran was taking selfies with Maida Kamanda, while Owalo was actually helping the Kibra residents who are actually constructing those houses. So it's just telling you, these are approaches that politicians are using to try and woo voters. It's a PR still.
Right. Let me ask, he's called it a PR stunt. Do you think it's effective? Is it working this far?
Yeah, before I say that, I think when you talk about development in Kibra, I think Ken Okoth did his part, and especially what came out clearly is education. And the issues of roads, remember the NYS, development.
Right.
That came under the NYS, the last government. But you see now when you talk about the sewerage system, when you talk about, job employment in Kibra, when you talk about housing, there are a lot of issues. And you see, apart from that, there's something that is also coming out, that there are some communities that were not involved in development for 39 years that felt that it is high time now we need to be brought together as a community, so that when we are doing development, we do it as a team, as a community. That's why Owalo is a uniting factor. In fact, he has come out clearly that he's ready to work with all the communities. Today, when we were meeting some leaders in the party, he said that when he took this seat, he's going to increase bursaries from 5,000 to 10,000. Ken Okoth used to give 5,000 only. And again, he has also come out clearly, and he's saying that the fact that if you look at the CDF committee, it is not representing all communities. And that's what people say. Well, even though Ken Okoth died,
let me cut you, because I don't want us to delve much more into specific candidates' stance on these particular issues. Sure. But it's interesting to know that there are promises which we've always seen during this particular period of campaigns and so on. Perhaps I'd just like to get it from either of you, what you really look forward to seeing play a big role in the determination of who is going to sit in Ken Okoth's space and ask in Parliament. I'll start with you, Tarish, and then we'll get you in. What factors do you think will play big in this particular by-election?
One is about how well these candidates have identified themselves with the voters. That is one, because you've seen some of the candidates who are coming in today. There are allegations that they have never been to Kibra. Some of them are not even registered voters. And even if they are registered, they are not actually registered to vote in Kibra for that matter.
You're talking about McDonald Mariga.
I've not mentioned anyone's name. I'm just trying to say what people are talking out there. Yeah, you're getting the point. That some of the people really have just gotten an opportunity, because they are seeing there's an opportunity to fill the vacancy of the that was left by the late Ken Okoth. But the most important thing, like I've said, you've seen the people of Kibra this time around, they are like going to to give us a surprise, a pleasant surprise for that matter. It's like they're not going to take politics as it's been usually. They want to see a leader, one who is going to carry along the legacy of Ken Okoth. And that's why you see I was not in agreement with him by saying Ken Okoth has done considerably well for the people of Kibra, and that's why the people feel we want a person who is going to take or to carry along the legacy of Ken Okoth, if not better. You get the point. So those are some of the fundamental aspects that the voters in Kibra will be looking out for.
Let me get your input.
I think what Kibra people are going to look for, first of all, they are not going to vote for political parties. They are not going to vote for people who have been brought from outside. They are going to vote for a leader whom they believe in, a leader who will carry the legacy of Ken Okoth, as you've said, a leader who will provide leadership and development. And even though there are a lot of things that will be happening in this campaign, especially huge amount of money that will be given to people, but I told them now it is an holiday. You can eat that money, because actually when you're given money, take it.
Including ANC's money.
Including. So what they need to focus on is a real leader. And that's why they're not interested in all this, what you call sarcasm.
Right. Final commentary is something I'd planned to touch on tonight, but we won't delve into it deeper. We'll just briefly touch on it in a sentence or two. I know this will be tough on you guys, but Murang'a County Assembly rejecting the Punguza Mizigo referendum push. We've seen that with a lot of other assemblies in central Kenya region. As well, now the governors are coming up with their own initiative, Ugatuzi initiative, fronting for another, what I'd call a referendum, because if such changes were to be made, then we'll have to do it at the ballot. Tarwish, or let me start with you, Charles, and then I'll have it over to Tarwish. What was your impression on these two developments we saw in this particular week?
First and foremost, it is important that there's a need for a constitutional amendment. And I like what the governors are proposing. First and foremost, they are proposing the increase in revenue sharing, and they're also talking about their representation in the committee. In regards to Punguza Mzigo initiative, there are a lot of issues that they have also proposed, but also which are also pertinent. But there are also others that are not important to Kenyans, and that's why we are currently at 4-1. It's only Uasin Gishu that has passed that bill, but they are running out of time, because they have to raise at least 23 counties for it to be taken to parliament, which is not going to work. So I believe we're also waiting for the report of BBI. So as an ANC party, we are waiting for that report so that we decide, because we are going to support an amendment that is not going to increase the number of executive. We are also going to support an initiative that is going to support and elevate the lives of Kenyans. Right.
I want you to hold it there. Tarwish, just so first, because I really have to conclude it right now, your impression on the two.
There's one thing that is clear. One is that, the Punguza Mzigo, Ugatuzi, and the entire BBI has taken a political angle. And that's why you see counties that, for example, support base for, say, Raila Odinga or President Kenyatta are seemingly opposing the Punguza Mzigo initiative, simply because their two leaders are not keen in supporting. In fact, Raila Odinga has come out openly to castigate and oppose the Punguza Mzigo initiative. But I think generally what is important for us is to think about all these initiatives, the Ugatuzi, the Punguza Mzigo, and the BBI that we are told is going to have something to do with referendum. If you can think about some of the good things we can bring together, consolidate all these ideas that we have, so that we as Kenyans can go and vote in one document that will give us a rest in terms of this debate as regards to changes in the constitution. Because we cannot afford as Kenyans to be taken around every other time by these politicians. You have everybody and every particular group coming out with their own initiatives as long as it suits their interests.
Right. Thank you so much for making time for KUTV News at 9. Kennedy Owalo, ANC Youth leader, and Tarwish Oleltele, our in-house political commentator. I really appreciate your time this evening, gentlemen.
Pleasure.
Let's see what turns out of Kibra. We take a breather. Keep tweeting at KUTV Kenya @V_Dundo. We'll be getting to sample your feed, but we come back with updates on sports.